Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Now continuing on with the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, we need to first note that Yaqub alayhi salam had 10 sons from his first wife and 2 sons from his second wife, namely Yusuf and Benjamin. Now a common misperception that many Muslims have is that Yaqub alayhi salam gave more love to his 2 younger sons, Yusuf and Benjamin, and this caused jealousy amongst the other brothers. Now, there is no evidence in the Quran to suggest that Yaqub alayhi salam was biased as a father. On the contrary, if you examine verse 8 of Surah Yusuf, the 10 boys are stating what they believe to be true. They feel that their father is giving more love and attention to his 2 younger sons instead of them. Now, just because someone feels a certain way about someone else doesn't necessarily mean that it's the truth. It is just his perception of the truth. So just because the 10 older sons felt a certain way about Yaqub doesn't mean Yaqub was actually biased. Besides, being a wise prophet, it is unlikely that he would be biased. What is more likely is that Yaqub alayhi salam was giving the same love to all of his sons. But since Yusuf and Benjamin were considerably younger than the other 10 boys, Yaqub had to give them more time and attention. That would make perfect sense. The 10 boys were old enough to look after themselves, while Yusuf, who was believed to be 6 at the time, and Benjamin, who was even younger than Yusuf, they needed extra care and attention. Therefore, the 10 older sons remembered those occasions when Yaqub was showing care and attention to Yusuf and Benjamin, while forgetting all those years in the past when he gave them care and attention. In fact, we all can relate to this to some extent, having feelings that a younger sibling is more loved or given more attention, while forgetting the attention and love we were given when we were young. Now, besides this, it is interesting to note that the 10 older boys don't say that their father should be giving them more love and attention because they have made more sacrifices in life, or because since childhood they have made so much more effort. Instead, their justification for feeling jealous is illogical. They state that their father should give them more attention and love because they are a larger group. That's their reason. 10 big boys compared to 2 small boys. So why is Allah telling us this information? What Allah wants us to know is that from the very beginning, you can see that these 10 older boys did not consider Yusuf and Benjamin as their own, just because they were born from a different mother. They discriminated against their 2 younger brothers from the very start. They were proud and arrogant, and they loved to be the center of attention. So when the attention was diverted for some time to the 2 small boys, they couldn't handle it because they never considered those 2 small boys to be part of their own. So I hope this makes it clear that the entire notion of Yaqub being biased against his 10 older sons is completely wrong and unjustified. On the contrary, the 10 sons were the ones who were biased against their 2 younger brothers. Now, of course, being a wise father, Yaqub alayhi salam understood the flaws in his 10 sons. He knew that they did not consider Yusuf and Benjamin as being their own brothers, and they craved attention, and they believed themselves to be superior. That's why he warned Yusuf that if an important dream like this, suggesting that everyone will be prostrating to Yusuf, was shared with the 10 brothers, they will not be able to control their envy. Now, in fact, verse 9 of Surah Yusuf further confirms that the 10 sons loved to be the center of attention. They mention killing Yusuf or casting him aside to some distant land so that Yaqub's attention can only be for them. This is an important lesson for us to understand. People who love to be the center of attention have a habit of thinking that they are useless or worthless if suddenly they are not the center of attention anymore. Instead of understanding how wrong and baseless their beliefs are, they start to think less of themselves, and they hate those who are now being given the attention. This is precisely what the 10 sons were experiencing. And this also highlights the problems that arise when we obsess over one parent, be it the father or the mother. These boys wanted constant validation from the father. They wanted to always be noticed, praised, loved, cared. This extent of obsession becomes toxic and suffocating in any relationship. And that craving for validation can sometimes make us engage in sin. What is also fascinating about the story is that usually you would expect one or two people in the family to be arrogant and crave attention. But in this case, it's surprising that all 10 boys had the same flaw. They wanted the same thing. This proves that toxicity can be contagious. The 10 boys were being raised just fine. But the minute Yusuf and Benjamin were born, their insecurity surfaced. And perhaps a few were insecure and felt jealous, but eventually they convinced the rest to feel the same. That's why the Quran mentions one of them who appears to have a better conscience and who advises the others not to murder Yusuf, but to just throw him in a well. He could understand that killing an innocent child was wrong. But because he was in the company of such toxic brothers and toxicity is contagious, his rule wasn't strong enough to guide him to do the right thing. That's why we are told to be cautious of our company. Sometimes even close family can be toxic, negative, or jealous, and we should refrain from spending too much time with them because it could affect our own energy levels. And now besides this, a final comment that has to be made is about how deceptive and clever Satan can be in fooling us. These boys believe that after committing a heinous crime such as murder, they can just do tawbah, do good deeds, and become righteous again. Now don't forget, they were sons of a prophet. They knew Islam. But at that moment, their jealousy grew to an extent that they could not understand that when you deliberately commit a crime as big as murder, despite having complete information about Islam and being preached about religion in the best possible way from a prophet, you cannot just do a few good deeds and expect to be forgiven. That's not how the process of tawbah works. You cannot just commit a huge crime and quickly transition to being a good Muslim when you were 100% aware of what you were doing. This is how Satan tricked them. But it was the conscience of one of the brothers who saved them by deciding that Yusuf should be thrown into a well and not killed. In this way, chances are that someone will find him and look after him. This is how dangerous bad company can be, and this is how deceptive Satan can be. The entire process of tawbah revolves around guilt. The individual feels so incredibly ashamed about what he has done that he wishes to do tawbah, he wishes to seek Allah's forgiveness, and he wishes to change his ways. Tawbah is not a bribe that you're giving Allah, where you're negotiating with Him that I'm going to commit a huge crime, but then after that, I'll do a lot of good deeds, so please do forgive me and accept my tawbah. And of course, surprisingly, because toxicity is so contagious, it's interesting how not even one of the brothers was able to explain that this is not how tawbah works. Not even one of the brothers was able to refrain from being involved in a process like this. That is why it's very important to be surrounded by good company. Assalamu alaikum.